Hello viewers, welcome back to another important and episode, an interesting episode of Talk the Book Show. Every Friday, Andhra Pradesh State Council of Higher Education introduces a review of a book by eminent personality. The idea of Talk the Book Show is conceived by Professor K. Hajra Reddy Garu, Chairman, Andhra Pradesh State Council of Higher Education. Till now, we have completed 115 episodes and introduced various book reviews. Today, we are in 116th episode, and I welcome Dr. Monishita Hajra Pande for this show. Welcome, ma'am. Before starting the show, let me introduce our reviewer and presenter of this Talk the Book Show. Madam is presenting a book review on by Pramath Sinha's Learn, Don't Study. This is the book Madam is going to review, and Dr. Monishita Hajra Pande is an assistant professor in the Department of Training and Development at the English and Foreign Languages University, Hyderabad. She has a doctoral degree in English language education and postgraduate degrees in English, linguistics, and Spanish. She works in the areas of cross-linguistic transfer of skills, multilingualism, teacher education, and academic reading and writing. She has 10 years of teaching experience and has worked on several government projects. Of course, she is an avid reader too. So let us welcome today's presenter and start the book review. Both you, ma'am. Welcome.
Thank you so much, sir, for that very generous introduction and for having me here today. Now, let me share my screen and then get started. Right. So the book that we are looking at today, the title of the book is Learn, Don't Study by Pramath Sinha. And I'm Monishita. I will be with you for the next 40-45 minutes. So as I've mentioned, the author is Pramath Sinha. We will look a little bit, we'll discuss a little bit about the author in a while. This is a 2023 publication, so it's the latest book. The book launch happened just last month. It's a 153 pages book published by Penguin Random House. And the book does not have a conventional foreword by any eminent personality, but it has a section called Advance Praise for the book. In the Advance Praise, we find a number of very interesting people reviewing the book and providing little blurbs. So you have Sanjeev Pichchandani, founder and executive vice chairman of InfoEdge, Naukri.com, founder and trustee, Ashoka University. We have Rudrangshu Mukherjee, chancellor and professor of Ashoka University. We have a few other eminent people right at the beginning of the book in this section of advance praise for the book. So these little reviews that are included right at the beginning, they really captured the attention of the reader. So this is the book, and this is the section which I'm talking about. So it doesn't have a traditional conventional foreword as such, but it does have this interesting section called Advance Praise for the book. Now, I'll have to talk a little bit about the author himself, because this book is a culmination of his own discovery and experimentation in his own career. So Pramath Sinha, right now, he calls himself a EdTech entrepreneur. But if you look at his initial training, was in metallurgical engineering from IIT Kanpur, and he did research in robotics. And from there, he went into business. He was a business partner with McKinsey and Company. And then in the late 2000s, he was, he was synonymous to institution to being an institution builder. Institution builder is something that maybe we didn't even think about a few years back as any job profile, but he got defined as an institution builder. He was called to be the founder dean at the Indian School of Business, Hyderabad. He's the one behind the ISP, which is of course, gone. I mean, globally, it's one of the best business schools in the world. He is also the mind think tank behind Ashoka University, which is considered to be one of the Indian Ivy League universities located in NCR, the national capital. And the Young India Fellowship, which is again a very innovative program, which is known for its interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, liberal arts framework, which was again Pramath Sinha's brainchild. And then, of course, so many other educational initiatives that he is often, connected with. So if we look at his career trajectory, this is what he calls a squiggly career. This word squiggly is used a lot repeatedly in the book. Squiggly is basically a non-linear, line that goes zigzag. A zigzag line is called squiggly, and that's what he associates his career trajectory to be squiggly. As you can see, a man who was a metallurgical engineer, he ended up being an educationalist and founding dean of some of the best universities in the country. So this book is a documentation and reflection of what are the ingredients of creating a successful, fulfilling career. And he draws heavily from his own experience, these unconventional trajectories that he himself took up, and he reflects on that, and that's the crux of the book. Now, before I go into the details, let me quickly take you through the narrative of the book. The contents page, how does that look? It begins with an introduction where Pramath talks about how can we, just engaging the readers with what do we mean by making the right choice? Because as students, as teachers, as professionals, we are constantly taking decisions about our careers, and we always want to make the right choice. We are scared of making wrong choices and getting stuck or wasting time or being left out in the race. So he talks about all of that in the beginning. He sets the main research question as such, the central argument of the book. And then he picks different strands of, the ingredients of a successful career and puts it in the form of 7 chapters. So the chapter 1 is titled "You Can Do Anything." Then it touches upon the process of self-discovery. Then the 3rd chapter brings in a very, very interesting idea of generalist versus specialist. Should we be opting for general degrees or should we be going for specialization? If we want to specialize, how soon in our career should we specialize? So that's what he calls the breadth and depth. We'll come to that in a while. Then he talks about a range of skills that we're talking today, whether it be NEP 2020 or any curriculum, we're talking about skill development. So what kind of skills do we need across all kind of career trajectories? He touches upon that. Then he brings in the metaphor of dots, and very interestingly weaves in the idea of picking and connecting dots in our life trajectories and journeys. And in the last 2 chapters, he goes into a bit of mentorship, like the role that mentors play in our career paths. And finally, he brings everything together in the final chapter, which he calls Advice for Parents, because this is a book meant for both students and parents and professionals. So it has a very wider kind of a readership that it's trying to reach out to. And that's why I chose this book, because I thought this is something that will help anybody, even if you are starting your undergraduate studies, or you're looking for your graduate studies, or you are in the middle of your career and you are thinking of, upgrading yourself. Or, if you're looking at career paths as parents when you are trying to mentor or guide your own children. So this book kind of speaks to anybody and everybody that believes in growth, self growth, and moving forward in life and learning new things. So it kind of caters to a very, very wide readership, yet it has a very it is a beautiful balance of a wider audience, but also being able to cater to all the different subsections within that wider readership. Now I'll talk a little bit about the style in which Pramath Sinha has approached this book, written this book. It is very conversational. You almost feel that the writer is having a chat with you. It's really conversational. It has a lot of anecdotes from his own lives. Interestingly, he balances his experiential evidence with fact-based evidence also. He brings lots and lots of statistics from all across the world that highlights the role of Indian students and professionals in the global map. So all these surveys and studies that he cites vis-a-vis Indians, how they are performing in different aspects of the industry, kind of situates this book in the Indian context, because a lot of books that talk about career growth, they are written by Western authors and they give you statistics from US or UK or Europe. So those data and statistics are not India specific, and we don't have books that delve into the Indian context, Indian psyche, our own data. That this book does a wonderful job. It situates the decisions that we need to take vis-a-vis our career, and it also tries to look at domestic data like within India, as well as globally, how Indians and non-resident Indians, people who have left the country, first generation Indians who have moved to the Silicon Valley and who have made a mark. So he brings all those hard statistics into the book, along with his anecdotes and experiences. So it's a very nice balance of different kind of evidence, which really stood out for me as a reader. Another very interesting aspect of his style is he incorporates the interviews that he has taken of around 10 to 15 people, young people, who have, of course, picked very unconventional career trajectories. People who started off with science and then ended up in communication, or someone that started off as an engineer and ended up as an entrepreneur in social transformation, etc. So he picks up the narratives and life stories of these very young, successful people, ranging from journalists to researchers to interior designers to entrepreneurs. And he weaves these stories into each of the chapters, and he does it very organically and seamlessly. As a reader, you will be able to connect with one or more of these characters that he brings into the narrative. And these are based on the interviews he has conducted. So it is very real, and these are all Indian young adults. So their problems and their challenges are very relatable to an Indian reader, like say us. Another very interesting aspect of each chapter is that he has included a section called sidebar. And these sidebars are nuggets of wisdoms from his own explorations, experimentations, and sometimes very interesting statistics that I was talking about. Global statistics and local statistics vis-a-vis Indian students and Indian professionals. He brings those very interesting highlights into these sidebar sections in the chapter, and each chapter has them. One such sidebar is where he talks about the Young India Fellowship, which is, of course, his own intellectual baby. So he brings the YIF experiment and talks about that success. Then right at the beginning of the book, in the sidebar section, he mentions this very interesting statistics, which I've put on the slide, that Indians have the highest rate of job change. We often think that Indians are very conventional in their career path. We either want to be doctors or engineers, or we want government jobs or civil servants. we want to be civil servants, because these are very quote unquote stable kind of career trajectories. That is our perception. But interestingly, a recent study shows that Indians have the highest rate of job change, 67% among all countries in the world. We have 67% rate of job change, and 82% people in 2021 said that they plan to change their job in the next 1 year. 82%. And interestingly, there is a kind of a irony in this data, because 89% were also very satisfied with their jobs. Now, Pramath Sinha tries to understand the statistics in the present context, and he says that Indians are also considered to be extremely ambitious, hardworking, and growth-oriented people globally. So maybe because we, as a population, we are very we are a very young population, and young Indians are very ambitious and growth oriented. So maybe that's why such a high percentage of people are into job change. So what does this tell us? It tells a very interesting story that many a times we are under a lot of pressure from our parents, from our families, that we have to be very stable with our career. We have to pick one thing and do that for the rest of our lives. Maybe something what my father did, he got into a government job in his mid 20s and he retired at the age of 60. So that kind of pre 1990s kind of career choice is not what today's young India is into. Of course, because there aren't such jobs, too many jobs like that. The economy is changing. Globally, things are moving rapidly. The technological innovations have changed the job market, and the skill gap is increasing. So there are lots and lots of different changes, which makes the millennials and the Generation Z people respond to their career choices very, very differently. So the sidebar section, in every chapter gives you these kind of very interesting insights and contextualizes the entire book within the Indian scenario. And then finally, each chapter has the last section of the chapter is called exercises. Now, these exercises are very interesting. They are actually reflection prompts. Pramath Sinha is encouraging each one of us to maintain little journals of our own, where we can think critically about our own career choices, our own relationship with our mentors, our assessment of our parents, what kind of parents have they been, what role they have played in shaping our careers. And these are little reflections, thought experiments that he leaves with you, and this definitely facilitates a lot of inner thinking, critical thinking, self-transformation, and growth. These exercises are so powerful that if you engage with some of them, you might actually end up taking a very different decision going forward in your career. They're very powerful prompts. So this is kind of, how every chapter looks like. It's conversational, it has narratives, it has evidence, it has the sidebar sections, it has very interesting statistics and experiments woven into itself. And then finally, the exercise section that kind of brings everything together for the reader to think and apply in his or her context. So the introduction of the book, Making the Right Choice. The primary question with which the author begins is, what should I study to prepare best for success in today's working world? Because this is a question that we as teachers, as educators, as parents get this from young adults. They're asking, what should I do? What should I study? Which career option is good for me? What's going to prepare me best for today's world? That's a very genuine, very valid question that people in their teens have. Like, once they are approaching their board exam, parents start asking them, what do you want to do? What do you want to study? Or they may not ask them, they just tell them what they need to do. So he begins with the central question that this book tries to address. And he also makes us realize that the response to this question is not an easy one. So as parents, as teachers, should we instruct our students or our children, this is the path and you must go this way? Or should we allow them to just explore for some time, figure out what they want to do, how they want to do it? So how do you maintain that balance of giving them a direction in their career, but at the same time not being too prescriptive, not putting unnecessary pressure, and not letting our own anxieties and insecurities reach the younger generation that is already dealing with a lot of insecurity vis-a-vis their career paths. So the introduction sets the tone for the entire book. He talks about this question that is central to today's concern of young people. And he also he also gives very interesting statistics to show that educational institutions are lagging behind big time to prepare our students to meet the real challenges of the job world. So, and this has been globally, it's a problem. I mean, it's not that only Indian institutions are struggling, but again and again, companies are reporting leadership gaps, skill gaps, talent gaps in their companies. They have to design their own courses, their own modules to kind of train people on the job, because the jobs that are available in the market, people don't have the skills to fill them up. So this is a major problem, and he highlights some of these issues that are very real in the job market out there. And then of course he also assures us that this book will give the readers some practical advice on how to make sense of this entire phenomena. Now the first chapter is titled "You Can Do Anything." Now here Pramath Sinha is very, very candid, very honest about some things that are very common among people, where many of us don't know. I mean, when we started our careers, when I was 17 or 16, maybe I was not very sure what I want to do next. And many children, like my niece, she's now 13, and she's beginning to feel the pressure. She's 13, she's beginning to feel the pressure that she has to kind of make choices about her career. And we expect our students and our children at very young age to figure it out for themselves. What is it that they want? And if they are not able to figure it out, somewhere they feel guilty. They feel, either we make them feel, oh, you don't know, you are just too defocused, you are looking at too many things at the same time, you have to pick one thing and stick to it. So this pressure to conform, or this pressure to commit to something too early in their lives and stick to it for the rest of their lives, this is a bit counterproductive in today's world. So he highlights all of this in the first chapter. And he also talks about an interesting bit about money. Many students or many parents, they want their children to get settled quickly. That is, they want them to start making money quickly. So sometimes career choices are driven by pay packages. So he kind of discourages this kind of choices, where he kind of says that if money is the only criteria based on which you're making career decisions, it may not be sustainable in the long run. Initially you may be excited and motivated, but a lot of studies show that money cannot be the only criteria for people to be happy and satisfied and fulfilled in their professional lives. And it is possible to have fulfilling professional careers. It's not a myth. And again, he backs that up with a lot of studies. Then coming from the money point of view, he doesn't say that money is not important. It is a byproduct of your success. It is important. It is a motivating factor for many of us. But that can't be the sole criteria for your career choice. That's what he kind of argues for. From there, he goes into, passion. Like many of us, when we want fulfilling careers, we want to do something that we love to do, right? Or something that we're very passionate about. So Pramath very interestingly tells us that passion is not something that is fixed in life. You know, it's not that there is just one passion and the whole life you will have only that one passion. This was something that really made me think, because I always had this passion for teaching. You know, even as a young adult, I started teaching very early, and teaching is my passion. But I'm sure I have so many other passions which I'm not looking at this point of time in my career. So he kind of convinces you that you need to also develop your fashion. It's passion. It's not that it is just there with you, like you were born with a passion and you just have to find it. Not that. He says, okay, there might be some innate things that you're passionate about. That is okay. But there are also certain things that you will become passionate as you grow in your life. So passions need to be developed over time. There can be multiple loves that you have vis-a-vis careers. You can have multiple careers. You know, it's not that one career has to, and that doesn't say anything about you if you are switching careers, if you're taking unconventional paths. You know, that doesn't mean that you're unstable or you are indisciplined or you're irresponsible. None of those. So with that, he kind of ends the first chapter, where it is very, very reassuring actually as a reader to have an author who is directly addressing some of our own internal dilemmas and worries and stress about professionals and being students. Now, chapter 2, he highlights the importance of self-discovery. So if you want to pursue successful, fulfilling career paths, then one main ingredient, according to him, is self-discovery. And here he brings the story of one of the interviewees, Monica's life story. And through her life story, he kind of makes this point clear that as people, as students and as professionals, as teachers, as people, it's very important for us to keep discovering our strengths, our weaknesses, our our capabilities. The more and more we become aware of what are the things that we are not comfortable with, and we try to push that boundary, we may find a new place to grow. So this process of self-discovery, he says, is at the heart of experiencing a successful career. And with self-discovery, we have a lot of unpredictability, because a lot of us, after a point of time, we cease to go into self-discovery, because human beings by nature, our default mode is to tackle the unknown. You know, we want to unravel the unknown and we want to make sense of it, be control of it. But this actually hampers our self growth, and it comes in the way of our growth and journey. So this unpredictability and embracing the unknown and something that is unpredictable also leads to us taking more risks in our lives. And only when you take risk, you reach a new destination in your career. So from here, he goes into a bit of a criticism of the psychometric tests. You know, there are a lot of tests these days which tell you that, okay, after your class 12, you take this test and you will know what should be your career path. So he criticizes these kind of tests because they put people in boxes. Okay, there might be certain things that right now you are very good at, and you may say, I'm a very mathematical person, or I'm a very philosophical person, or I'm a right brain person, I'm a left brain person, I'm a visual person, I'm an auditory person. We may have these preferences, so to say, but that does not mean that that's how we have to live our life, for the rest of the time we have on this planet. So that's what he criticizes, these ways of looking at people in boxes, or just putting them in their comfort zones and just telling them this is what you're meant to do, you are born to do, and just do that. Because that kind of limits people's growth and what they can do or can become. Here he gives the example of Steve Jobs and a few other, eminent people, successful people who might be in the field of technology, but they are also into calligraphy, they are also into philosophy, they're into music. So this hardcore division between science and humanities, that also gets questioned, because a lot of people who are very good with numbers can also be very good with emotions, or so these dichotomies, these binaries in which we often think and tend to give advice, is something that he pushes us to reconsider and rethink. And again, he ends the chapter with a very interesting statistics that Indian students globally are the most rounded people in the world. Okay, so our folks who go abroad to study, when they are compared to other Asian students, they seem to be very, very aware of the fact that they need to be well rounded. So everybody is into some sort of extracurricular activity. They are also into sports, and they're also into tech things. They come out to be much more well rounded than other nationalities. So like I said, this little section at the end of every chapter is very, very motivating as a reader, because the more and more you see what our students and our professionals are doing worldwide, you really feel very happy and proud, and also very motivated, because you feel you can also contribute so much to the growth of the country. Now, these are the two exercises that I found very interesting from this chapter. And these are the exercises. This is just to give you a taste of what he does at the end of every chapter. Leaves you with a couple of questions to think about. Actually, 4-5 questions. I have only picked 1 or 2. So look at the first one. It says, do a pressure-free, judgment-free self-assessment. What are the 4 to 5 key strengths that you have? What are the 4 to 5 areas that you need to work on? Is there anything specific that you want to cultivate in the next few years? So, these kind of questions, they really make the reader think and connect with their present challenges with their careers and studies. And then the second one also I liked. It says, think of 2 qualities or capacities that seem to be in odd pairing. They're like contradictory to each other. Like I can say I'm very good at driving, and I'm also very good at say cooking. Say these are things that we don't always put together. We think that, okay, people who are very good with cooking, they may not be very good with their other skills. So can you think of 2 capacities which are like diametrically opposite to each other? They are not often paired together, but you have it in you. And I'm sure we all can think of such qualities. So now coming to the third chapter, balancing breadth and depth. This is again a very interesting conversation where he brings the problem of generalization versus specialization. There was a time where there was too much of focus on specialization. You can see in different fields, even in the field of medicine, engineering, academics, any other aspect of academia, you will find that there has been a lot of focus on specialization, and specialization has to begin early in the career so that you become very, very the depth. So specialization is the depth that he talks about, and breadth is the generalist mode of study. So Pramath Sinha tries to argue that balancing generalist and specialist mode of study and career development is very, very important, because sometimes people go into specialization too early and they kind of lose touch and become irrelevant because the field has kind of moved very fast, and your specialization has now taken different colors and forms, and you're not able to fit in. So the interviews that he did shows that one of the important factor in a happy career is and for long-term success and growth is to be a generalist and also specialist. But there has to be a focus on picking skills that are transferable. Okay, so there are a lot. So generalist in that sense is very important. Generalist training is important because these are skill sets that can be used in any career choice, in any situation, right? So, and when we don't focus much on picking these generalist skills, then we lose out and we may feel too stuck later on in our careers. He also talks about the skill to specialize is also a generalist skill. Like if I want to specialize in, say, making Chinese food, then how do I go about becoming a master chef in Chinese food? So that process of learning to specialize is also a very important journey, because that is a general skill to specialize, how to specialize. For instance, when I did my PhD, I learned so many skills that goes into, you know, synthesizing, researching, time management, uh, seeing myself as a part of the community of other researchers, collaborating. So all these things were part of my PhD journey. So even when you're specializing, although I was specializing in a particular discipline, how did I specialize? Reflecting on that journey and being conscious of it goes a long way in, you know, creating long-term fulfilling careers. And here he draws our attention to the fact that universities and colleges that provide you with a wide range of courses are always a better choice than universities and colleges which offer you only very specific uh, skill courses. So suppose you want to be an engineer and your curriculum is only in engineering. That is a limiting curriculum. Whereas if you go to another college or university where you want to be an engineer, but at the same time, there are basket of courses that are from humanities, from liberal arts, from, you know, other areas, because those will give you certain skills like critical thinking, it will communication, you know, so many other you know, like becoming more socially aware, your own social skills, connecting the gap between technological development and human needs. So those kind of connections you'll be able to make as an engineer, as a technical grad, a tech grad. So he brings in the importance of choosing courses and choosing universities that encourage this kind of cross-pollination of courses and ideas. And this is very much in line with NEP 2020, which puts a very, you know, it puts a lot of thrust on multidisciplinary education. So he brings that point here. And he also talks about the cultural bias that we have. You know, we think, oh, studying philosophy is total waste of time. Studying history will not help me in my career. Only studying, say, coding will help me because it will immediately give me a job. So this cultural bias towards practical degrees, he addresses that. And he says, we are not saying that practical degrees are not important. They are important, but you also need to, at the same time, you need to pursue other areas of knowledge and study. And this is very much rooted in our Indian philosophy and Indian education system. He brings certain evidence to prove that in the Indian tradition, we look at knowledge as a whole, and these compartmentalization and creating very watertight compartments is not very organic. And he gives us a very interesting data, which I really want to maybe read out a bit. He says that a lot of people prefer careers in STEM, right? Like science, technology, engineering, and math, because they think they will get more money. But a very recent study, 2019 study, shows that two people, one with a master's in English and the other with a degree in engineering, when they started off in the career, the humanities person was earning less, but over a period of time, the pay gap reduces, and actually the people who have fulfilling careers in humanities end up earning more and being more happy, I mean, you know, being more fulfilled than STEM, STEM, you know, people who are from STEM, because that specialization and all of that, and limiting their skill set, just after a point of time, after 3 to 5 years, they stagnate much faster than people who have gone into the non-STEM disciplines. They are able to grow better. The salary gap also reduces over a period of time. So this I found was a very interesting statistics, because a lot of times we think that if we are pursuing non-STEM disciplines, then will not be able to earn well, and therefore will not be happy. So he kind of debunks that. Again, there are some very interesting exercises here where he kind of makes you think about your own university or college where you're studying in terms of the variety of courses that you have. Are you able to get a wider palette of courses, or is it only technical skills that is being focused on? And makes you reflect critically on your experience. The fourth chapter focuses on skills. What kind of skills? Here again, he brings the technical skills and non-technical skills, talks about the two, and the skills that he talks about, which are part of transferable skills in non-career growth, non-linear careers. So these are, he talks about these 5 skills that anybody and everybody requires, whatever may be your area of specialization. Your specialized skills are important, but at the same time, you need to be a generalist. So these are the 5 skills that he discusses in great detail: communication, collaboration, critical thinking, problem solving, and leadership skills. And he goes into very interesting data and analysis of these. And of course, he also, convinces us that higher paying jobs in the market, they require a lot of social skills and not so much technical skills. And with technology being so advanced, a lot of jobs that are getting replaced by machines and other softwares, they are the ones which are based on very specialized technical skills. Those can be replaced by machines. But these skills, quote unquote soft skills or social skills, these are the ones which AI, it will take time for AI to kind of mimic human skill set in these areas. I mean, the work has already started. Artificial intelligence is already kind of making progress in these areas, but that is still a much more complex space for us to get replaced. So these are the skills, therefore, that we need to focus on, whatever be our background or our goals in terms of career. Again, he leaves us with some very interesting exercises. He asks us to, for instance, ask a trusted friend or colleague or a mentor to rate us in these 5 skills. So in communication, collaboration, critical thinking, problem solving, and leadership, how do they rate me? And that's how I move forward. So that, I mean, and there are many other interesting exercises that you will find when you read the book. The 5th chapter brings in the metaphor of dots. And he says that when you are into a particular kind of study or job, at that point of time, it may not make sense to you. You may think that, why am I doing this? I don't need to do this. This is not making sense in my career. My goal is something else, but I'm doing this. So he says, don't worry too much about how these dots are going to connect in future, but keep collecting lots and lots of dots. Okay, so he uses this dot metaphor to talk about experiences, skills, connections, interactions with people, learning contexts. So he says, keep picking up these dots. Later on, when you look back, you will be able to connect the dots. And this quote from Steve Jobs' commencement speech at Stanford University, the famous one, kind of puts together this entire chapter's crux of the chapter. You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backward. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in the future. So 15 years now after I finished my post-graduation studies, now when I look back, I can connect so many dots that I have picked. But while I was connecting those dots, I was very insecure and concerned whether they are all going to add up to my success. So in this connecting dots chapter, he addresses problems of fear of failure. And here he talks about a very interesting concept of intelligent failure. So he says that, yeah, we all know that, we make mistakes. We have to learn from our mistakes. We have to learn from each failure. But he talks about this concept. Sitkin 1996 talks about this idea of intelligent failure, where your failure is also planned in the sense you have planned the initiative to the T, knowing that some things may go wrong, and I'm going to learn from it, and I'm going to make changes as I move along. So this idea of intelligent failure, which he discusses in great detail, I found very striking and very interesting. I'm not going to say much. I would leave it for you to explore it in the book. But this concept of intelligent failure really stood out for me as a reader. And again, one very interesting sidebar that he ends the chapter with: curiosity as a superpower. So a lot of studies in brain sciences, in neurosciences, in cognitive sciences has shown that with age, human beings levels of curiosity decrease. So 5-year-old versus 15-year-old, the curiosity level just drops like that. So biologically, curiosity is something that keeps reducing with age. So he kind of convinces us to keep that curiosity alive, because that helps in self-discovery, that helps in embracing the unknown, and all of this that he talks about. Now, coming to the second last chapter, the power of mentorship. Here, Pramath Sinha again goes back to his own squiggly career, an engineer who ended up becoming an institution builder and a founder of lots of educational initiatives. And by the way, he was a failed academic, failed academic in the sense he did his PhD in robotics. He got a faculty position in University of Toronto. And after 3 years, he left his tenure track position because he was like, academia is not for me. So, this is a man who left academia, who gave up his professorship, and then ended up going into, McKinsey and partnership and business, and then came back to building institutions. So he came back to academia, but not in a conventional manner. So he talks about a very important part, a very important decision in his life, which changed his life when he was in McKinsey. And he got this offer to set up Indian School of Business. Nobody really supported him, not his family members, not his friends. But one conversation with Don Jacobs, who was his mentor, convinced him that he should take this risk and he should take up this offer. He should give up his role at McKinsey and, take up this new unknown thing of setting up a business school in India, in Hyderabad. So, and he kind of, he thanks his mentor, because if he had not had that conversation, if he would have just gone by what his wife said or his friend said or his colleagues at McKinsey said, he would not have been what he has become. So he highlights the importance of having mentors in our career. And he convinces us that we need to keep reaching out for mentors who are going to give us insights, will help us connect the dots. And then finally, the last chapter, which is meant for parents, he talks about a very interesting idea of secret sauce. He says, as parents, what should we do to help our children? And he says that while Indians have a lot of advantage all over the world, the value system that Indians have really stand out as compared to other cultures. So the qualities that he highlights in the Indian culture are dependability, integrity, commitment, hard work, dedication, excellence, rigorous thinking, resilience, and adaptability. So this he calls is the secret sauce for mentors and for parents, that give your children, give your students, give your mentees, enough opportunity to develop these core Indian values, and they are going to go and then, play around with these values, apply it creatively in their new emerging context. So the millennials and Gen Z, they need these core values, and we need to trust the process and let them be and go and, change the world. So that's how the book kind of ends, and it kind of promotes the idea of growth mindset. I really hope that you will find the time to go up and read this book. I really think it's very, very relevant for all of us in today's age and time. And it's a latest book. It's a 2023 publication, packed with a lot of very interesting insights from latest studies and experiences. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for introducing a new book, and which is interesting, which shows the Generation Z's capabilities and also the requirements of Generation Z to develop. In fact, the author has rightly contributed the current generation's views and ideas. Thank you for introducing such a nice book.
Thank you, sir.
We thank wholeheartedly from the Andhra Pradesh Commission of College Education for your excellent presentation. Thank you, all the audience. We will meet you in the next episode of Talk the Bookshop. Thank you.
I would also like to thank Andhra Pradesh State Council of Higher Education, Dr. Ramesh, Dr. Bhaskar, and all the colleagues who have been part of hosting this show. Thank you very, very much. I'm really touched by your generosity and your goodwill. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.